It's time to elevate your lunch break, especially if you work from home. With these quick and delicious recipes, you'll feel nourished and at ease because not all meals need to take hours to prepare. Also, all of my friends, I hope you're having a beautiful day. Recipe number 1 is a banh mi, which is a Vietnamese sandwich, and we're kicking it off by cutting up some carrot because we're gonna pickle it. So I'm cutting up my carrot in a matchstick style. If you don't know what that means, it's basically just long little rectiles. I'm combining 1 tablespoon of sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, and half of a cup of boiling water. That's to start because you have to mix and dissolve your salt and your sugar and also add a little bit of heat to the carrots as well, and then added 1 cup of vinegar. I decided why not add some red cabbage to the pickled mixture as well, so I just cut that up, and then to add a little bit of spice and chili aroma to the pickledness, I cut up half of the green chili. And now, setting that aside, I'm cutting up some shiitake mushrooms, but you can do whatever style, kind of mushrooms your heart desires. Portobello, just classic little button mushrooms. You could even get fancy with it with lion's mane or turkey tail. But onto the tofu. I'm just frying very thin slices of tofu in some olive oil, seasoning it with salt, and once it's browned and crispy on both sides, I'm setting it aside and into the same pan while it's nice and hot, throwing those mushrooms in there. Once they start to release their liquid, cook them for about 3 minutes before adding 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, a clove of garlic, and a little bit of that vinegar mixture from the carrots and cabbage. And then we're gonna start building our sandwich after we cut up some cucumber. But I guess before we build the sandwich, we need some bread to build it on. So I'm using a big chunk of a baguette that I bought, and then I'm going to add those mushrooms and the tofu. This recipe easily makes 2 or 3 sandwiches. So you can have one, your partner can have one, your family, your friend, whoever you want to feed with this recipe. There is lots. I added some hummus to the other side of the bread, but feel free to use vegan mayo. That's kind of a classic thing for a banh mi. I just didn't have any vegan mayo in the house at that time. Threw my pickled veggies on top, threw my cucumber, and added a big handful of cilantro. The cilantro is obviously optional. Coriander, as I know many people like to call it. And then once it's built, you're ready to dive in and thoroughly enjoy. Shrink down to the camera level. Cheers. I would suggest getting some softer buns for this recipe, just because the hardness of this bun kind of squishes it and makes everything fall out. Traditionally, it's with a softer bun, but this is all I could find, and it was delicious fresh bread, so I couldn't pass it up. The flavors are still amazing. The color! Recipe number 2 is a quote-unquote ramen. This is basically a salty and spicy soup, and I'm using ramen noodles. Just a good way to classify it. I called it ramen because I'm using ramen noodles, but started it off by chopping up some garlic and Thai chilies, and then got onto my broccoli. You can use whatever green your heart desires. It doesn't have to be broccoli. Bok choy, Swiss chard, any type of Asian green, and or you could just do carrots. It's really up to you. But I got a tablespoon of oil into a pan on low heat, added my garlic and my Thai chili, and allowed that to do its thing for a couple minutes before adding tofu along with a good sprinkle of salt. Toss that around for a couple minutes before adding the broccoli, and then once the broccoli was in the pan for a minute, I started adding some water. In total, 4 cups of water along with a 1/4 cup of soy sauce and also a 1/4 cup of miso paste. This is a salty soup. Just to let you know, you can do less miso paste or less soy sauce if your heart desires. And if you do end up making it too salty, do not worry, I have a trick for you. You can just add a big chunk of potato into it, and that will absorb any excess salt. That's only if you truly do find the soup to be way too salty for you. Just throw a potato in there and it'll kind of alleviate some of that salt. I got my ramen noodles all cooked. Make sure you do not overcook them because they are going into a hot soup and we don't want them to be soggy and disgusting. I recommend just serving the noodles in your bowl and then adding the soup on top, and not cooking the noodles in the soup because again, they're just gonna go soggy and disgusting, especially if you have leftover soup. It's just not pleasant to eat. So keep them separate and serve them separately in your bowl. Well, put them together in one bowl, but you know what I'm saying. This recipe in total took about 20 to 25 minutes to make, and easily there's 2 large servings. Before we continue, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. They are a longtime sponsor of this channel, and I'm telling you, they are valuable. I am currently rebuilding my website, and I can't wait to share that with you and launch that with you with many, many more recipes than what's currently on my website. But something I love about it is the ease. Drag things around, take ideas from other amazing templates that they have available from you, implement those ideas into your website, play with the color scheme, and once you have an audience, send out beautiful email campaigns to let them know when you've launched a new recipe or you've launched a new product. Or maybe let your clients know that you have availability this week. If you'd like to try it, Squarespace, then head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/JuliaAyres to get 10% off of your first purchase of a domain or website. You're in the digital age. It's time to have a website. All right, let's make recipe number 3, which is a roasted veggie sandwich. I absolutely love this one because all you need is 10 or 15 minutes to shove everything in a pot, spice it with some Italian spices, and then chuck it in the oven. I'm starting mine off by chopping up some Japanese sweet potato, but you can do normal potato, orange sweet potato, doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you can do whatever combination of veggies that you have in the house. I also did carrot, red cabbage, along with red onion. I love the red onion in this because it adds a nice layer of sweetness and beautiful like caramelization. But we're spicing all of the veggies with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 tablespoons worth of balsamic vinegar, a teaspoon worth of salt, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons of an Italian spice mix, so like basil, oregano, rosemary, chili to taste, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Mix that all together, and then you're gonna chuck it into the oven for 40 to 45 minutes or until it's tender at 175 Celsius, which is about 350 Fahrenheit. The veggies can be enjoyed warm or cold, it doesn't really matter. I'm quickly throwing this sandwich together, put hummus on both sides of the bread, added some quote-unquote raw tofu, seasoned it with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, chucked a bunch of the veggies on it, had some fresh bread. There you go. This is so yummy and so flavorful. This mixture also doesn't have to go into a sandwich. You could enjoy it in a Nourish bowl, for instance, or with whatever combination of sandwich ingredients your heart desires. Say hello to recipe number 4, a staple, a classic, the Nourish bowl. I'm cooking up a cup of rice. I'm cooking enough for leftovers, just so you guys know. And we're gonna start it off by rinsing that rice slowly but surely. I didn't have a fine mesh strainer, so I'm just chucking the water into the pot and moving it around, rinsing it, trying my best. I got that onto the stove, and while it's cooking, I'm going to rinse a can of black beans. You can do whatever beans your heart desires, chickpeas, navy beans, it doesn't really matter, but I had black beans available to me, so that's what I chose to do. I'm going to chop up a bunch of different vegetables. Again, this is very optional. I'm trying to inspire you with this recipe. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not trying to give you an exact one here. This is just a suggestion and inspiration for you to get in the kitchen. I matchsticked up some carrots, I matchsticked up some cucumber, I'm slicing up some red cabbage. Also, if you do not include red cabbage in your diet, I highly recommend it. It is fantastic. It is such a lovely vegetable. But anyways, I got a couple cloves of garlic into a frying pan with some olive oil on low heat, and after about 45 seconds to a minute, I added my black beans and then seasoned it with some smoked paprika, chili to taste, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and after a couple minutes I added a splash of water and we're ready to go. Rice is cooked, adding that to the bowl along with our beans. and then all of the vegetables that we chopped up. I'm personally going to serve up this bowl with a big scoop of plain hummus and then a squeeze of orange juice, just for a little extra sweetness. I sprinkled some more smoked paprika, a little bit of chili, and then sprinkled some sesame seeds on top as well. But you can make a hummus lemon dressing, a lemon tahini dressing, a jalapeno vinaigrette dressing. I just opted for hummus because one, it's the easiest, and I want to show you guys simple recipes for this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, could you hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already? Truly appreciate it, truly appreciate you, and I'll see you again so very soon. Mwah!